Well, thank you for the question and thank you for having me. As you would well know, the National Small Business Act defines SMEs in various forms and also depending on the industrial sector in which it operates. Suffice to say that generally any business in the South African context, any small business or any business that generates an average or under 50 million rands turnover per annum is considered an SMME.
And for you, Mr. Sithole, tell us a bit about your business, the business that you run.
I'm a tattoo artist. I do tattoos and I'm based in the township. So my business basically, it falls under the art. And when you look at art, when it comes to business, one of the things that I can say that we struggle with is getting funding. So art is not one of the businesses that are looked at. So basically, I do tattoos. I'm a tattoo artist.
And how has COVID-19 affected you and your business? Is there a stark difference between before COVID to now?
COVID has affected us quite a lot because we work with people, we work with clients, so most of the time they have to come into our studio. So now we haven't been getting a lot of clients because people are encouraged to stay at home. So it's been quite a challenge to get clients, and yeah, it's a real struggle.
Mr. Khaas, talk to us about the role and the impact of small to medium enterprises on South Africa's economy. How important are they? How much do they actually contribute?
Well, it's a well-known fact that small businesses are the lifeblood of any economy. That includes ours. Whether they are accorded the kind of rights and even consideration as they ought to, it's a point to be debated. But SMEs are a very crucial part of our economy, of any economy in the world for that matter. So in terms of employment, they generate employment, whether they are formal or informal SMEs, but they do contribute to the employment of the population, but also even contributions to the economy. In most economies, especially developing and developed economies, SMEs are some of the key suppliers or contributors to economic growth. So they are very important. And to the extent that the pandemic that we are living through now or operating through now is affecting small businesses, the hardships are felt in various forms. Some had to close completely. Some had to work with skeletal staff. And we were all not prepared, big and small businesses, not prepared for the ravages of the pandemic, such as the one that we're enduring. So we cannot overemphasize the importance of small businesses.
Mr. Sithole, on the expectations of what you hope President Cyril Ramaphosa will focus on at his State of the Nation address on Thursday, what is it that speaks specifically to your particular sector, to small businesses that are operating at your particular scale, and specifically in the township economy as well? What does he need to speak to that will address your concerns?
Okay, some of our main concerns in the township is mentorship, access to mentorship, and processing of information in terms of where can we get the funding. Those for me, those are the main two. And then affordability of spaces for small business, spaces where small business can do well and strive, like your CBDs, winning, because we do want to grow and move into those, such spaces.
Mr. Sithole, have you approached government for any sort of assistance in the past? And what type of experiences have you had in that regard? And even now specifically as well during the COVID-19 period?
Oh yes, I have tried to sort funding from NYDA, and like I mentioned before, processing the information, needing help to understand and filling the documents that are needed, and other challenges are requirements, because when I applied for funding before, one of the requirement was a surety. If should I get the loan, a surety, and it was hard to get the loan, because my parents should I have use the house as a surety. They were afraid that what if the business fails somehow, they were gonna lose their house, and then the main thing is processing the information, getting mentorship, and information.
Mr. Khaas, what do you hope that the president will be focusing on in his State of the Nation address? And also, I think, just bearing in mind the type of challenges that small businesses like Melusi's experience.
Yeah, Tammy, as I address that, let me start by saying, as you very well know, the old adage that hope runs eternal. But I'm afraid that we'll soon be saying hope has run its course, because certainly the environment that small businesses operate on, the hardships that they endure, as expanded by Melusi, are quite severe. And what we really would have wished is for government to ensure that it lives up to its commitment or undertakings that it has made to ensure that it assists small businesses. All we've heard so far largely is from both private sector and government is all lip service insofar as small businesses are concerned. We have been inundated with calls, especially in the early months of the lockdown last year, with small businesses who were closing or facing the threat of closure and layoffs. We have heard governments talk about programs that are aimed at helping small businesses. But most of those programs, accessibility remains a problem. You would have also read about the 200 billion rands that was set aside to assist as temporary relief for small businesses. 90% of that still remains reportedly unallocated or unused. And the process of even accessing those type of assistance is just laborious, and in some instances it's fraught with mismanagement or maladministration. And you would also understand that the corruption that we find ourselves in has also set in, has taken advantage of the chaos that ensued. You know what happened to the UIF, reports of employees of the UIF siphoning monies that were aimed to assist small businesses. And so the plight of small business hasn't changed. It's actually...
Are you with us, Mr. Khaas? We seem to have lost our connection with Mr. Khaas there. But let me turn to you, Melusi. As far as businesses in the arts industry and the arts sector where you're at, do you feel that you are actually taken seriously as a business?
I don't feel like we are taken seriously. Also being in the township, it's one of the biggest challenges that we have to face. But as ever since I've started the tattoo business, I try to educate people about art. And if you're going to put something that's permanent on your skin, you need to respect that form of art, because you're going to be wearing that thing forever, for the rest of your life. So also we need to inform people. I think, that's the very most important thing, is that as tattoo artists or as or anyone in the art industry, we have to teach people about this so that they can be able to respect us.
Well, thank you so much for that sentiment, Melusi. Mr. Khaas, back to you. I believe we've got a better connection with you once again. You were still decrying the sorry state of SMMEs in South Africa, talking about hope starting to dwindle.
Yes, hope really, there's a saying that says hope runs eternal, but we are soon running out of hopes, or maybe rather to rephrase, the small business sector is soon running out of hope. You would have heard reports of government officials, even as far as the office of the president itself, dipping in monies that are meant to help provide opportunities for small businesses for personal protection equipment. Now we are faced with the rollout of the vaccine. There's also suspicions that the likes of the ANC's Progressive Business Forum may be lining themselves up to ensure that they line their pockets with whatever tenders that might emanate out of that. It is a sorry state of affair. And until and unless the government reins in such excesses and corruption, the plight of small business is just going to get worse. And the hardships are so widespread that on a daily basis, I get to be faced by SMEs or owners of small businesses who actually express their fear that they may have reached the end of the road insofar as the business is concerned. It's a sorry state of affair. And this, meanwhile, happens while government proclaims its commitment to helping alleviate the plight faced by SMEs. It really is a worrisome state of affairs, and something needs to be done urgently. And time for pussyfooting or even using opportunities as a patronage network ought to come to an end. And government must realize that if indeed it has to live to its commitment of helping small businesses, and if it does believe or share the belief that SMEs are the lifeblood of our economy, things ought to be done drastically and soon.
Some analysts are saying that by the time the COVID-19 pandemic is over 60% of SMEs would have actually shut down. From your view, will this shutdown be directly linked to the COVID-19 pandemic, or would you say that there may have been some systemic failures or weaknesses that predate the virus?
I think it is the latter. If you'd recall, even before the lockdown or the advance of the pandemic, on this shores at least, our economy was struggling, was at the doldrums, and there were talks at the time that the president needs to come up with plans to help revive the economy, and everybody must come to the fore. Just as we're busy fumbling on that, or as government was fumbling about that, that's when the pandemic or the lockdown happened. So in essence, the problems that we are faced predates the pandemic itself or the lockdown, but they got exacerbated by the fact that we had to now deal with the unknowns and learn as we go along, because none of us had anticipated or even operated a business in conditions as we find ourselves in. And we cut government some slack as far as possible, but the situation is getting worse. In fact, even reports of 60% may be under reporting, because quite honestly, the situation is dire. And it is dire because even government, insofar as some of the projects that it has sought to implement for post-COVID re-energizing of the economy, they are slow in terms of being fulfilled. You might have heard of the presidential projects or initiatives for infrastructure development. Most of them have now been frozen by the politics or hamstrung by the politics or tough fighting by various departments. And that is not good, because the pandemic or the economy cannot wait for government departments or officials within government department to come to their senses, because the ravaging of the economy will just carry on. And by the time we come to our senses, there'll be nothing left to save. So our appeal is to government to ensure that we move with with greater pace or urgency insofar as implementing those projects, the presidential infrastructure projects that government has sought to implement, and make sure that we allow SMEs to compete for the opportunities and do that which they would be able to do to survive. Otherwise, I cannot. The situation is just going to get worse.
Mr. Khaas, we'll leave it at that for today. I see you there towards the end, touching a bit on the procurement bill, but unfortunately time is no longer on our side. But thank you very much for your insight, Mr. Tebogo Khaas, President of the SMME Found Forum, as well as entrepreneur Melusi Sithole.